Good morning and welcome to Holy Trinity. It's lovely to see you all here this morning. If you like, at the start of the year of normal time, lovely to have you here. There are a few visitors amongst us, and I hope that we'll get to say hello to each other and welcome each other a little bit later in the service during the peace. But good to have you here. What better thing to do to start the week than to gather together as God's people, as God's family, as community to worship together. Last Thursday we had our first Winter Warmers event in St Luke's, and it was a tremendous success. Great fellowship, great coffee, great tea, warm place to be, and there were about 20 or so people there, and it was really very, very good. And we're going to just keep repeating that for as long as is necessary, and it may evolve and morph into something bigger and better. But if you know of anybody who would appreciate a bit of company and a great cup of coffee or tea, then please do invite them. Notice in the notices sheets. In the next couple of weeks, we hope to obtain planning permission to begin to remove some pews. So these first three or four pews, this one and these two to go, and then all those pews, sorry guys, at the back in the corner are going to be removed, and that's just going to create more space for us to be flexible, and then we're going to experiment with all sorts of different things, including bringing coffee from the cloisters into the back of church and seeing if that works, and if it doesn't, we'll just put it back again. But the bigger space here will allow us to do more interesting dramas and bigger choirs at the front and a bit more space to move about. It'll also allow people who are perhaps in a wheelchair or perhaps are a little bit more infirm to come and sit at the front, rather than always saying to people like who are in that situation, you need to sit at the back, which is just a rubbish message. So it's about inclusivity, it's about flexibility, it's about making this church space more useful than just a Sunday. We're also going to be putting in a new AV system. We've got a reasonable AV system at the moment. We've been blessed by it. It does tend to be temperamental, especially because it's software driven. So they're going to install some hardware that you can kick where it goes wrong, which I always like to kick things when they go wrong. And so we're going to have some screens which you mount high here and here, and they'll drop down during the service on a little motor, and then the screen itself will drop down. So it'll drop down in two parts. We'll have a digiprojector sitting somewhere over there, digiprojector over there. We'll be able to broadcast our services through YouTube and through streaming, so that'll be great for weddings and also for funerals, but also for our services. We'll be able to have and support a larger band if that's what we want. We'll be able to amplify voices better as well. So all of that's really exciting, and we're going to start work in the next couple of weeks. Around that same time, I am being taken away to Portsmouth Cathedral, where I am going to be collated or installed or licensed. I prefer the term interred, as Archdeacon. And you guys are welcome to come to that. Please do. I need at least one smiling face to keep me company and to hold my hand. So it's 5:45 on the 22nd of January, and if you'd like to go, if you let Andrew know, then he is just sort of coordinating if people have special needs. So let Andrew know. I still meet people in the village who say, I'm sorry you're leaving, as if becoming an archdeacon means I'm not any longer going to be Vicar of Bembridge. Unless you know something I don't, I'm staying. Okay, so would you just let people know if you hear conversations like that, just step in and say, the bloke's going nowhere. That would be, in more ways than one, theologically as well, that's of course also true. Good, so all that's all the notices. We're going to get on with our service. Claire's going to lead our service. I'm going to open with prayer. So would you please stand? So I may have some bad news for you. We just sung the Christmas carol, We Three Kings of Orient Are. Well, when we read the Bible just now, we may have noticed that there are no kings. There are magi, wise men, no kings. Magi, but no kings. And then when you look to see how many magi there actually were, we're not told. We sing three kings, but there could have been 43, as far as we know. Yes, we know that there are gifts, 3 gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. But Amanda got 3 gifts from me for Christmas, but that doesn't mean to say she's got 3 husbands, unless I'm missing something. At our wonderful, chaotic crepe service, we made the Magi wait patiently outside the stables, queuing behind the shepherds, so that they might go in and see Jesus. But Graham read to us in verse 11 that Jesus was in a house by the time they arrived and tipped up. Herod murdered all the under-twos, having ascertained when the star appeared. So they arrived at a later time in a house. So the carol is lovely, and we sang it today. And the traditional Christmas story is lovely. But when we look into it, the Bible tells us something different and better. And yeah, I can hear you saying, is he going to tell us that Father Christmas isn't real now? And that's a different sermon. And anyway, there's proof because the mince pie is always taken and the sherry's cleared. So we know that there are magi, and we know that they're coming from the east, and we know that there are a number of them, and we know that they arrived sometime after Jesus is born. So what? Well, the word magi is a Greek word that means magician. Magi, magician, astrologer, interpreter of dreams. People who have at best the secret hidden knowledge that only wise men can understand. And everywhere in the Bible where this word magi or the equivalent ticks up, it's always used negatively. Totally negatively. These are anti-heroes. These are Gentile anti-heroes who represent the intelligentsia of our worlds. And the question is, why does Matthew tell us their story, include their faith journey? What's going on here? Well, that we have here in front of us the wisdom of the world literally bowing down before the wisdom of God, paying homage to the wisdom of God. We have the wisdom of the world, the Magi, bowing before the wisdom of God, a baby called Jesus. And what we can see from this story that we're going to unpack is that the wisdom of the world is often uncertain and insufficient and superficial, but it finds its fulfillment in Jesus. The wisdom of the world is often uncertain and insufficient and superficial, but it finds its fulfillment in Jesus. That's where we're going this morning. Let's unpack this. The wisdom of the world is often uncertain. In Matthew chapter 2, verse 1, we have, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi came from the east. Why? Well, we know that 40 years earlier than this occurrence, in 44 BC, Julius Caesar was buried. And we know that when he was buried and during his burial time, there was a supernova in the night sky. And we know that this phenomenon was such a shot in the arm for the tourist industry and the astrology business at the time, because it became cemented in people's minds that when a great king was born or a great king died, the heavens would move, there would be a sign in the heavens, there would be a star. That was widely believed. And we know that when Jesus was born, there was a close conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn, something apparently that happens once in every 400 years. And this would have looked like a very bright star. And if this was the case, and we're not sure, then when combined with the rumour, as reported by the historians Suetonius and Tacitus, that a great king would come out of Judea, then these three things, the star, the king, and Judea, would have our Magi packing their camel saddlebacks and heading west. They were looking for signs. They'd seen the star. They were expecting a king. They couldn't be certain, but they travelled. Now, we have to remember that these guys are the most highly educated people of their time. They are the learned. They're the Oxbridge professors, the ones in the know. Yet they didn't know. They were just following a hunch. When I was younger, my economics and my sociology teacher told me that Christianity was a white religion, a Western religion, and that the more a country develops, the more religion would fade. We were told by the greatest commentators that Christianity is a Western white religion that will fade in the face of developing science. And yet, what do we see today? We see Christianity is growing at speed in China and in Latin America and Africa. And the last time I checked, they were neither Western nor white. And the more modern China gets and the more sophisticated technologically South Korea get, for example, the more Christians they are getting in their communities. When it comes to elite opinion, they couldn't be more wrong. We're constantly revising our scientific, our psychological, our existential theories of eternity. C.S. Lewis once said, "All that is not eternal is eternally out of date." And so it's no surprise that we understand that even today, human knowledge is uncertain. Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, the wisdom of the world is foolishness to God. Human wisdom is uncertain. It keeps getting updated. And when it comes to the eternal, we dare not trust our life and our soul to the theories of this world. It is uncertain. It is also insufficient. The wisdom of the world is insufficient to get us home, to get us where we need to be. Our wise men figure out there's a king. Good. They know that there is an answer to their searching, and they think it's in that direction. But they don't know where to find the king. We read verse 1, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, Magi came from the east to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who's been born King of the Jews? We haven't a clue. We just know he's around here somewheres. Where is he?" Their wisdom gets them only so far, but not all the way. And indeed, left to themselves, they make absolutely the wrong call. They go to Jerusalem. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you seek a king at the centre of government? Why wouldn't you look for greatness amongst the greats? They put 2 and 2 together and they theologically got the answer 864. Human wisdom can only get us so far when it comes to God. We can look at the cosmos and we can argue that God has to be outside of time and space and energy and matter because those things are created things. The maker has to be outside of the made. But we don't know where and we don't know how. We can look at nature. We can look at the miracle of the abundance of life, and we can postulate what creative genius there must have been, what a mind beyond comprehension there has to be behind the laws of nature that govern it all, the constants that our matter hang on, the programming of life. We can't discover it, but we know it's out there. How to connect to God, how to find the King, what is God actually like? We can make theories until the cows come home, but we will be uncertain and our knowledge is insufficient. Indeed, Isaiah chapter 55 says, "My thoughts are not your thoughts, and neither are my ways your ways, says the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." And if we telescope out from this village into this country, into this continent, into this world, into this solar system, into this galaxy, into the multitude of galaxies, of course God has to be so far beyond our understanding or our comprehension. I recently read a study that gave evidence to say that people who pray, who get joy in prayer, who find a connection to God through prayer, are healed after injury, restored after surgery, recover from illness faster than people who don't. 2 double-blind, scientifically rigorous, posted in science journals experiments. Human wisdom might tell us that prayer works, but it won't tell us who to pray to, or how to find God, or how to make this connection. It knows the question, but it cannot take us to the eternal answer. So, my friends, our best wisdom is uncertain about where to find God, and it's insufficient to get us there, and it proves itself always to be too superficial to meet our deepest needs and longings. For millennia, good people have battled injustice. For millennia, people who have dedicated themselves to ending inequality have worked hard. For millennia, ironically, we have fought, literally, for different forms of government that should bring peace and do good and be fair and carry out what is right. And I would argue we are no closer now than when we started, because the wealth differential between the rich and the poor is far greater now than at any other time. And the power inequality between those that have and have not has grown. And injustice seems to be apparent even in the best of governments. We know there is a problem, but when it comes to solutions, there is something deep within the human hearts, within the human condition, that we simply can't fix. And we've been going at it forever. There are deep down things in the human heart, the personal, that are systemic, that are community ingrained, that we cannot get rid of. We look for a king, a government, an authority we can trust. And we are no closer to trusting our government in Europe than America is trusting its government. Beauty is skin deep. Promises are superficial. And then there is this ridiculous statement in the Bible that we read, out of Bethlehem will come a ruler. Bethlehem. It's not an urban centre of learning, it doesn't have a university, no media hub there, no central bank, no military command or control, no seat of parliament in Bethlehem. Go to Jerusalem, you'll find greatness there, we say. But at Bethlehem, what will you find? A baby. And they discover, in the words of Aslan, a deeper magic. In this baby, God says, the way up is down. The way to get power is to serve. The way to be loved is to love. The world looks for greatness and glory and power in bigger and better and more. And God says, here, I come in a baby, because there is a deeper magic than this world's. J.C. Ryle, Bishop of Liverpool in the 19th century, said, when they arrived, they saw no miracles. They heard no wise words from Jesus to impress them. They experienced no pomp to seduce them. They just met Jesus and worshipped. They discovered the deeper magic for themselves. They encountered God's love. How do you encounter God's love? Jesus. The love of God through Jesus is the wisdom, the logic, the logos, the revelation of God. God's logic works like this. I will come to you because you cannot come to me. Emmanuel. I will humble myself before you because you cannot understand me as I am. I will love you at such great cost because this is what your heart and soul needs, to be loved. And this is what you are made for. And this hits deep. This changes lives. This is God's answer to our deepest questions. This, Jesus, as a baby, love. On coming to the house, the wise men saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and they worshipped him. The wisdom of the world meets the wisdom of God, and it worships, and it is in awe, and it honours it. And I want to ask you, will you accept that our wisdom, your wisdom, our thinking will not get us to God? It is uncertain. It is always going to be insufficient for you. It's always going to be superficial. What we need to do is to do what these wise men did, to place our hope and our faith and our trust in this tiny hope, the biggest miracle in the world. And they opened up their treasures and presented to Jesus, to God, gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. They laid before God their wealth, their worship, and their life and death. They gave it all to God. And in that moment, their relationship changed. They changed from being seekers to disciples. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. This is the statement of every Christian. We return by another route, by a way less travelled. They took a different way home. They walked a different way from this way onwards. Now, as they walked, they were certain. They had found, and they had experienced the deeper magic. How do we do this? You and I, we recognise that this will never get us to God, but God's grace will. And we lay before that grace our gold, our worship, our life. And we walk from that moment on, changed people.